Hi, boys and girls. This is Ms. Kathy. I'm so happy you've joined me today for another story just for you. Chapter 9, Bear. DeeDee had never, ever seen a bear in the wild before. She had only seen bears in zoos behind cages, but there in the trail right in front of her was a black bear. DeeDee's eyes got as big as saucers. "Shorty, it's a bear!" she yelled. But Shorty's horse didn't like seeing bears up close any more than DeeDee did. Before anyone knew what was happening, Shorty's horse reared up on its hind legs, bucked a couple of times, and charged down the mountain. "Whoa!" Shorty yelled. But it was already too late. Shorty did a backward somersault off his horse and landed on his legs not too far from Angel and DeeDee. As soon as Shorty hit the ground, he yelled and toppled over on his side. The confused bear took one look at all the commotion and ran as fast as it could in the opposite direction. DeeDee held tight onto Angel's reins and tried to speak calmly. Whoa, Angel," DeeDee said. There was still a high squeak in her voice, but she thought she sounded pretty calm. Finally, Angel settled down. With Zach in one arm, DeeDee hopped down beside Shorty. Chris and Sammy hopped out of their saddles, too, and crowded around. Shorty acted like he didn't want to get up. DeeDee knelt down. "Are you all right, Shorty?" Shorty shook his head. "I don't think so. I think my leg is broken." All of a sudden, DeeDee's heart began beating twice as fast as normal. Are you sure?" she stammered, trying to get the words out. Shorty grimaced. "Yes, I'm sure, DeeDee. I don't think it's too bad of a break, but I can't walk, and I sure can't ride." Even though she had her best friends with her, DeeDee still felt scared. "Now what do I do?" she wondered, and then she thought of something her dad had told her. If something happens and you are scared, tell yourself to be calm. You can think much better if you are calm. DeeDee told herself to be calm. She took a deep breath. "Wow, I feel better already. It really works." Then she thought of something else her dad had told her to do if she ever got scared. "Dear Jesus, please help me know what to do. All of us need your help right now." DeeDee opened her eyes. Jenny and Sammy were looking at her. They smiled. They knew she had been praying. "What do you want us to do?" Shorty thought for a moment. "You know, there's a cave just a few yards away. It's not a very deep cave, but the mouth of it is wide. There's just enough of an overhang to stay out of the sun, and the rock walls will reflect the heat of a fire and keep us warm." Chris was kneeling beside Shorty. "How do we move you, Mr. Wilson?" "That's a good question," Shorty said. "First, we better immobilize my leg." "What does immobilize mean?" Jenny asked. "It means to put a splint on my leg to keep it from moving," Shorty replied. "First, find a straight, sturdy stick. Then we'll tie it onto my leg." Willie was still on Smokey. He backed Smokey up and began searching for a stick from horseback. The way he leaned over in the saddle and examined the ground, he looked like a scout from an old Western movie. "I found one," Willie yelled. He pointed at the ground. "It's right here beside this fallen log." Chris got the stick and laid it beside Shorty's leg. "What do we do now?" he asked. "First, I need a way to tie the stick to my leg." Chris frowned. "I don't have—" "I've got it," Sammy interrupted. "Chris, you and I can use our belts." "That's a good idea, Sammy," Shorty said. DeeDee and Chris did everything Shorty told them to do. Chris held the stick against Shorty's leg while DeeDee gently wrapped the belts around both Shorty's leg and the stick. It was hard to tighten the belts without hurting Shorty, though. Every time Shorty grunted because of the pain, DeeDee stopped. "Go ahead, DeeDee," Shorty encouraged her. "You're doing a very good job. Maybe you should think about being a doctor someday." DeeDee smiled. "Do you really think I could?" "Sure do," Shorty replied. While Chris and DeeDee finished putting the splint on Shorty's leg, Sammy, Jenny, and Maria led the horses over to the cave and tied them up. Then they gathered wood and built a fire to keep Shorty warm after it got dark. While everyone else was busy, Willie thought he glimpsed Shorty's horse a little way down the trail, so he rode down to check it out. He returned leading Shorty's horse. Once the splint was put on Shorty's leg, the Shoebox kids gathered around and helped him stand up. Then they helped him keep his balance as he hopped and skipped over to the cave. DeeDee thought they looked about as coordinated as a bunch of clowns all trying to go in different directions. At the cave, they gently helped Shorty lie on the ground. "Thank you," Shorty said. I'm glad you all are here to help me, but now it looks like you kids will have to go back to the resort for help." "By ourselves?" DeeDee asked. Shorty chuckled. "It certainly doesn't look like I'll be much help. I know you can do it, and if you run into Ruth Thompson or her brother, Eagle Feather, they can help you find your way back, too. If anyone can get you back to Wild Horse Mountain Lodge, Eagle Feather can. He probably knows this country better than anyone." "But he's the kidnapper," DeeDee said before she could stop herself. She remembered the strange marks on the ground and knew they were made by Eagle Feather's moccasins. Shorty chuckled, then coughed. "No, Eagle Feather isn't the kidnapper. For a while I also thought Eagle Feather was guilty, but I couldn't prove it, so I didn't accuse him." DeeDee frowned. "That's not what I did. I was sure he was guilty, even when I didn't have any proof." "You thought he was a suspect, but you didn't have a right to say he was guilty unless you could prove it," Shorty said. He shifted his body to get more comfortable. "When you and Willie said you saw an Indian in the bushes yesterday when Apache got scared, I finally realized that Eagle Feather was not the one who had been trying to kidnap Zack. He had gone with his mother to town the day before yesterday, since it was her day off." Something clicked in DeeDee's head. "I remember Eagle Feather mentioned that he was with his mother. He couldn't have been the kidnapper then, but I found his footprints everywhere the kidnapper was." How many people wear moccasins around here, she wondered. Shorty frowned. "I have a confession. It was my fault your trap with the camera didn't work today." It took a few seconds for what Shorty said to sink in. DeeDee narrowed her eyes at him. "What do you mean it was your fault? You mean you got in the way on purpose?" Shorty nodded. "If your trap had worked, then Ruth Thompson and not her brother Eagle Feather would have been caught." "But that's exactly what I was trying to do, catch the kidnapper," DeeDee huffed. Shorty smiled. "That's true, I guess. You were hot on the trail, but I wanted to talk to Ruth before you caught her so I could tell her that I knew what she was up to. So when I saw you tie Zack to the tree instead of take him down to the lake, I figured you had probably set a trap for the kidnapper." All this time I thought Eagle Feather was the kidnapper, DeeDee thought. But why was Ruth trying to kidnap Zack? Then something Shorty had just said made her stop and think. "What do you mean? Do you know why Ruth was trying to kidnap Zack?" Shorty's blue eyes danced. He nodded. "Yes, I believe I do know why she did it. It's just an idea, though. Maybe through your investigation you can find out what her motive was." Chris had just brought in a load of wood for the fire. He looked from DeeDee to Shorty. "So you aren't going to tell us?" "No." DeeDee didn't know what to say. She had been so close to catching the kidnapper in the act. "You won't tell us?" she repeated. "Sorry," Shorty said, shaking his head. "This is a mystery that is best left up to you to solve." Once Shorty was made as comfortable as possible, DeeDee gathered the Shoebox kids around. "I think some of us should stay here with Shorty until help arrives," she told them. Chris nodded. "I'll stay here and keep Zack with me." "So will we," Jenny and Maria said. DeeDee looked at Willie. "Do you want to go with me? I'm going to need someone along who knows how to handle horses." Willie smiled. "Yup, count me in, pardner." DeeDee laughed. "You sound just like a real cowboy." "I'll go too," Sammy said, adjusting his cowboy hat. DeeDee looked at the sky. "It's getting dark faster than I thought it would. We better get going." "DeeDee, come here." Shorty was up on his elbow. "Remember that the horses have been over these trails many times. They know the way home, and that's where they'll go if you let them." DeeDee knelt down beside Shorty. "I'll try to remember," she said. "I'm telling you this because it can get so dark in these mountains that you can't see your hand in front of your face, much less the trail. You'll just have to trust the horses to get you home." Shorty's face got really white, like he was in a lot of pain. He sank back down on the ground. DeeDee put her hand on Shorty's arm. "I'm going to trust in Jesus most of all to watch over us, and you too." "Thank you, DeeDee. Say, you kids wouldn't mind praying with an old wrangler before you go, would you?" Shorty asked. The Shoebox kids all smiled at once. Everyone knelt down where Shorty lay as DeeDee said the prayer. "Dear Jesus, we're all a little scared. Would you help us? Sammy, Willie, and I need to get help for Shorty, and most of all, Shorty's leg hurts a lot. Would you help him feel better? Thank you. In Jesus' name, amen." When everyone's eyes opened again, the Shoebox kids could see a tear in Shorty's eye. They knew it wasn't because his leg hurt. They knew it was because Shorty wanted to know Jesus better. Chris untied Angel and tightened the cinch for DeeDee. He held on to Angel's bridle while DeeDee mounted up. "Thank you, Chris," DeeDee said. Chris smiled at DeeDee to help her feel better. "You're welcome. You guys be careful, okay?" "We will," Sammy, Willie, and DeeDee all said together as they turned their horses toward the trail. "Please watch Zach carefully for me, Chris, too," DeeDee added before she left. "I will." Willie took the lead on Smoky. He looked at the gray sky and remembered how fast it got dark in the mountains when the sun went down. He tried to find the moon, but there was no moon. Willie's stomach suddenly felt like it was tied in a big knot. "I hope we can still see the trail when it gets dark," he said. DeeDee was riding second. "Maybe we'll get back before it gets too dark." "I don't think we have enough time," Sammy said. "It took us almost 2 hours to ride as far as the cave. We only have about half an hour of light left." Sammy's right, DeeDee thought. We don't have enough time. If only Shorty's horse hadn't spooked, we would all be safe and sound with our families. DeeDee, Willie, and Sammy rode through the trees and brush without talking. The woods seemed to be getting strangely quiet. DeeDee hoped it was so quiet because the birds were tired out from singing all day, and all the other animals were tired from playing and had gone to bed. She watched Angel's ears. Her right ear went forward, then her left ear went backward. Angel's hearing was so good she could hear things in the mountains DeeDee couldn't hear at all. But Angel didn't seem to be concerned. If Angel isn't worried, she thought, then I guess I shouldn't be so worried either. Suddenly, Sammy's horse kicked a rock that went bouncing off into the bushes. DeeDee jerked straight up. She had gotten so used to rocking in the saddle as Angel plodded along that the rock startled her. "It was just a rock," Sammy said. "I thought it was another bear or something." DeeDee twisted around to look at Sammy. It was so dark she could barely see Sammy even though he was riding only 10 feet away. "Are you okay?" Sammy nodded. "Yeah, I sure wish we were back at the cabins, though." "So do I," DeeDee said.
The story you have heard today is a chapter of the Shoebox Kids, Book 10, Adventure on Wild Horse Mountain, written by Eric Stoffel, edited and created by Jerry D. Thomas, and used with permission from the Pacific Press Publishing Association. If you're interested in any other books published by the Seventh-day Adventist Church, please visit AdventistBookCenter.com or call 1-800-765-6955.
This podcast is a production of the Carolina Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.